I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Yes or no? Did you ever take banned substances to enhance your cycling performance?
Yes.
I had no prior knowledge of the planned assault on Nancy Kerrigan.
I am deeply sorry for my irresponsible and selfish behavior I engaged in.
Guys, welcome back. Oops, the podcast. Giulio Gallerati, joined by the hulking, strong, muscular, 300 pounds of manly beef. Ryan is very polite. Lynch.
Howdy.
He is formerly very polite because now all the steroids he's taking, he's becoming very aggressive and violent.
No, thank you.
Ryan Short Fuse Lynch. Don't encounter him in public or walk too close to him or walk too slowly in front of him.
I may bite or put my foot against the ankle of your sneaker.
And make sure you take a compliment.
Yeah, take the
Don't
compliment.
you dare reject his compliment or he will kill you.
No, and we don't say, and yes, might kill you, but also we talk about the shame that we have on the podcast. Let this be another reminder to you, the Oops fam, that when you get a compliment, it's by somebody that means it. You are worthy. We are worthy.
Yes.
We are here.
We're here. We're doing it.
Let us pray.
Let us pray.
How you doing, dude?
Good, bro. I heard a very funny term for throwing up the other day that I had never heard. Launching. Shout out to my boy Bobby in Michigan. We were sharing our stories of being sick. I forget how it came up. We were probably talking about Afghanistan or something. When I was sick on the plane. Anyway, he was referring to launching into at some point when he was sick with food poisoning, and I was really tickled by launching. He said it once or twice.
You were tickled.
That is very funny. Launching.
What does tickled mean?
Just you think it's funny. You're
Tickle
like,
me. Is it tickle me this? That's riddle me this.
Riddle me this. Tickled means you were delighted. It was delightful.
Tickle me this.
Tickle me in my armpit.
Nice. Are you ticklish? Don't worry, I'm not going to touch you.
Yeah, I'm ticklish in my armpits and the bottom of my feet.
Yeah. I love to get Victoria. I'll be like, Victoria, let's do the same thing on 3. 1, 2, 3. Let's raise our hands. And I go right in for a nice tickle.
Hill Dog's ticklish and she gets upset. There is a scenario where I can tickle her and it's fine, but for I need to do it very, very cautiously because she might get mad.
Yeah. Vic thinks that I get off on tickling, and she always is like, "Why?"
Do you?
No,
I'm tickling her.
I get off.
Tickled?
I get off in a neutral, platonic way. In like,
you think it's fun?
I just think it's fun
To be tickled or to tickle or
to tickle.
Both? To tickle.
Mr. Tickles. That's it. That's weird.
Have you seen the documentary Tickled?
No, but I think we've talked about it like a year or two ago. I have yet to see it.
I don't remember the guy's name.
Doesn't he volunteer to like get chained and tickled?
No. This guy, he's a really clever, funny, dry journalist from New Zealand. And he's made 2 of my favorite things that I've seen, Tickled being one of them, and the other being The Dark Tourist. 2 great shows. Tickled is about some guy who basically, he has like some weird tickle fetish and there's this whole scandal and it's super weird and it's just, I don't know. And like the documentary ends up being more fruitful than they ever could have imagined when they set out to make it, which is typically makes the best documentaries. Mm-hmm. You set out for one thing, you find a completely other thing. And you know, some that come to mind, Icarus, Searching for Sugar Man, 2 documentaries where they set out to find one thing and blow open a whole different can of worms.
What's the gist of the second one? The
Dark Tourist is a show about, so this guy very cynically wants to explore what's the big deal with dark tourism. Dark tourism is when you sort of explore things where bad things happened and you're curious about that. So you go specifically for that. So, you know, he goes to some of these places in Central Asia where one of the places, Turkmenistan, which has sort of a controversial regime, he goes and visits and thinks he sort of like doesn't enjoy it the whole time, which is funny, makes him a little more sympathetic. He's a little condescending, but it's funny. Like it works for him. I think it's a great show. So he goes there. He goes to, I don't think he goes to Chernobyl, but he goes to like a similar place where they used to like test nuclear bombs. Mm-hmm. He goes to the scariest haunted house in America where no one's ever finished it.
Where's that?
In Tennessee somewhere. And the guy who runs it's this like sadistic guy.
Is that the one where you like tell him your darkest fears, you sign a waiver? We talked about that. And then like
Yeah.
they borderline make you
You
go
could
insane.
literally, you could maybe die doing it. You like have to sign your life rights away. So anyway, I don't know if it's still on Netflix, but it's really, really good. If you guys are into travel shows, it's maybe one of the best ones I've ever seen.
McCamey's Manor. Is the
that's what it's
scariest
called.
haunted. I wouldn't even call it a haunted house. It's more like a haunted experience.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's
haunted torture chamber.
yeah, aren't they all different? They're all like personalized.
Bro, they like waterboard
I don't look
you.
into it.
It's
Yeah.
like fucked up. Or they like throw you in a giant pit of snakes.
Or put a bee's hive in your head.
Exactly. Like that, like, or
In
drown you. Like it's crazy. So anyway, that's all good stuff. But dude, I did some fun exploring. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to because I was pretty busy doing stuff when I was in Chicago. But my last day, the stars aligned for me in a way where I ended up having the day to myself when I didn't expect to. So I went on a little adventure. I went to the Indiana Dunes National Park, which is probably 50 to 60 miles away from Chicago. There's a lot of traffic in the Chicago area, so it can end up taking much longer than it should. But regardless, it is the sort of tiny little stretch of coastline that Indiana has on Lake Michigan. If you pull up the map, it's pretty cool actually how little coastline there is. I remember when I discovered that this was the case, I was pretty fascinated by it. You get pretty off the beaten path by going, and I was able to visit in a thorough way, which can be hard when you're going to a proper national park. I'm going to go to the national park. And you get there and you have to, there it is. You have to have planned what you're going to do. Because if you just show up and try to figure something out, like you're not going to maximize your time. You can only do that if you plan to be there for a few days. And sometimes these parks are gigantic. Like it can take you an entire day to drive from one end to the other, or there's an area in one place and not the other place. And you have to kind of try to decide what you're going to do before you go. And you have to also try to not ruin it for yourself by looking too many pictures, knowing too much about it. You know what I mean? So there's a gentle balance.
So what is the happy medium in setting yourself up for success on a trip like this?
So, okay, once you start to understand what places might be like, you can figure out what the deal is. Because if you look at the wiki or if you look on the National Parks website, you can see what the different sites within the national park itself might be. So sometimes it's just one destination, which is really convenient. You just go, that's it. It's some sort of thing. It's a monument, it's a house, it's a ruin, it's a natural beauty thing. Easy. Sometimes it'll be a few different things. So say it's the John Adams National Historic Site. That will have his house, his son's house, his farm, his this, and those are all across the whole area, which I believe is called Adams, Massachusetts. You drive around, you see all of them, you don't, whatever. And I try not to be too OCD where like if I don't have time or I didn't have time to plan, I try not to go overboard with it. But for something like this, so this is for a proper national park. So proper national park meaning the 63, 65, whatever it is, national parks, Yellowstone, Yosemite, Joshua Tree, Badlands. These are all the ones. Some of them are absolutely fucking huge and you have to figure out what you're going to do. Are you going to drive around? Are you going to hike? Are you going to camp? What are you into, right? And there's some super famous hikes, which you should try to do, like the Narrows hike in Zion. You need to try to learn what these things are for the place that you're going. And some of the methods that I listed are a good way to start, but it's hard to pin down specifically what to do unless you talk to somebody who's an expert or you do a little bit of research, but it's part of the fun. So for the Indiana Dunes, there's 2 or 3 different places you can go. I was able to go to all of them, which was cool. The first one is the Paul H. Douglas Trailhead, which is a really cool hike to the beach. It's supposed to be one of the lesser traveled areas of the Indiana Dunes. So I was like, I'm going to do that. That'll be fun. The problem was I get there and the road is closed. That's the other thing. They're always working on these national parks. So sometimes, yeah, that looks right. I didn't get to go to it. Sometimes these parks, they're always undergoing construction. There's always shit going on. So it can be hard to keep track of that because it might say open, but the thing you want to do specifically is closed. Mm-hmm. So I fucked up there in this situation. But in doing so, I ended up in Gary, Indiana. I don't know if anyone has ever been there. Gary, Indiana is a Rust Belt city. And I guess that term means that these are cities that sort of had industrial economies, industrial-based economies for whatever reason. Cleveland was a steel city. Gary, Indiana was a steel city, obviously Detroit, cars. And then a lot of the cities in the area sort of specialized in making the parts for the cars, or this or that. So it's like Milwaukee, Toledo, all these cities around there kind of qualify as Rust Belt cities, including some some New York cities that are kind of in the Midwest, Rochester, Buffalo, to name a few. Chicago's one as well. Though Chicago doesn't appear to have experienced a lot of the decline that some of these other places have experienced. But I'm pretty fascinated in all this shit, so I like to see these places. I will say, man, Gary is pretty sad.
Yeah, dude.
It's a pretty sad place. The downtown is basically completely abandoned. Like, if you directly behind the town hall sign, there's a giant abandoned building.
Yeah, I've actually recently became familiar with Gary, Indiana from some TikToks.
Really?
Like eerie TikTok. The eerie side of TikTok with that ominous music. There's somebody that her father bought one of the schools, and it's their home.
Whoa, that's
in
crazy.
Gary. But yeah, I've seen that too. It seems pretty beat.
Dude, there are abandoned middle schools. There are abandoned like fields, and it's a bummer. And I looked into it a bit more. The population peaked, I think, at around 180,000 people, maybe in the 50s or the 70s or whatever. And it is now a population of 60-something thousand. You get the impression that it's pretty poor. And to be honest, while I am interested in watching some of those TikToks, I find it to be pretty exploitative, and I wouldn't feel comfortable making those kind of videos. Mm-hmm. I went to the most dangerous part of so-and-so. Like, I know that stuff gets views, but I feel like I have too much integrity to make that video.
Yeah. I think, isn't there a way you could do it though? Because the videos I've seen, it's not like, hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another episode. We're in the worst part of Indiana. It was more so like journalistic. Just like, hey, this is Gary, Indiana. And they did a little history lesson. Mm-hmm. Is like, you could do it that way if you wanted to. But I'm just saying, like, the videos that I've seen have been pretty delicate and not like clickbaity. Totally. People are interested regardless of the angle.
Totally. No, yeah, maybe. And like, I know that it might sound crazy because I literally went to Afghanistan when Afghanistan was having really difficult times. And I think I balanced that pretty well. Like, I think I was able to make that video. So if I were to go to Gary and do that, I would have to do it with people who lived there instead of just going and being like, this is the city. It just, I don't know. It feels like filming somebody with their pants down.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I get that.
So if people who lived there were down to like share their stories, take me around, explain it to me, that could be interesting. And maybe something that's worth doing, but maybe food for thought there. But anyway, like as I was there, I was thinking about like taking some videos and stuff, and I kind of just like felt bad. I tried to use discretion.
Yeah, if you Google it, all the photos they're sad.
Yeah, so
a lot of abandoned buildings.
Yeah, this is like the most extreme example I've seen of industrial decline in the Midwest. So anyway, it was interesting to get to see all that, and but still, amidst kind of all of the figuring out what to do next, I ended up in this juice bar in Gary, Indiana, that was popping, and it was diverse, and it was crazy, kind of like there was sort of like America looking people alongside a diverse bunch of different minorities, all hanging out in the same place.
All Americans love juice.
Ordering smoothies and sandwiches and all having fun. I bought the t-shirt. I actually wore it on the last episode. I forget the name of the place. Did you find it?
Vibrations, health, wellness, and juice bar.
If you're in Gary, Indiana, check it out. Place rules. And even if you're on your way to the dunes, because this Indiana Dunes is right down the street from Gary. And I checked out a couple of different parts of the park. I went to the furthest east part where there weren't as many people, and it was pretty and desolate kind of. And it's also sandwiched in between these two giant power plants, which I think are maybe not power plants. Maybe they're like steel factories. But it's interesting to like look to the left and the right when you're on the beach. You'd be flanked by giant factories.
Yeah, that is an odd one.
And then I went to the main area, which I think is called like the Ogden Dunes. I did a really cool hike. There's gorgeous like beach houses and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. And I always find that interesting that on the way to some of these destinations, sometimes you'll be driving right past a place that's kind of fallen on tough times. And yet right next to it is this like beach town with their own beach police and really developed and nice. And I don't know, it was a whole fun, interesting day. Got to see a bunch of northwestern Indiana, which I don't think many people go to very often. I threw up on my story just a a pano of me kind of like scanning the water, and I think maybe only 1 or 2 people guessed right where I was.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people guessed Lake Michigan, but nobody guessed the Indiana part of Lake Michigan.
You launched it on your story. Is that the term?
Launch? No. Launch.
Throwing up?
Oh, no. Throwing up like vomiting.
Yeah, I know that.
Oh,
but
okay. Yeah. Clever. Yeah. I launched it.
this show is sponsored by BetterHelp.
Guys, BetterHelp is where it's at. If you're looking to start up with therapy, there's so many advantages to doing therapy remotely. BetterHelp is a completely online service that matches you with a licensed therapist after filling out a brief questionnaire and sort of getting to the root specifically of what you want, what you need. It helps you even decide what you need, which is nice. I remember after I filled out the questionnaire, it became more clear to me which type of therapist I would be interested in working with, which helped the process for all parties involved. It's super easy to switch if you don't think a therapist is a good match. And to be honest, having this sort of online situation creates this buffer that is actually quite comforting, that you don't get when you're doing it in person. Like if you need to switch therapists, it doesn't feel as weird just doing it on your computer as it would if you were going to see the person in person. But anyway, they'll match you with the right therapist for you, and you are also in control of that. You can kind of help and make stipulations as to what type of therapist you want, whether it's a man, woman, somebody who's friendly with the LGBTQ plus community, or if you want somebody who specializes in something specific, you can get that figured out too. I know that I've been with therapists in the past whose techniques I wasn't feeling, but it was hard to switch. Then I'd have to see the person at the office, having known that I had switched. It just made me feel uncomfortable.
A mess.
And that's why I think BetterHelp is great. Take a moment with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/oops today to get 10% off of your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com, BetterHelp.com/oops.
So I went golfing last weekend, and I was at a golf course that I played at back in September last year. Now, back in September, I left my 56 degree on the 18th hole.
That's a wedge?
That's a wedge. That's a wedge. And I left it there, and I didn't realize that I left it there until a month or two later when I played golf next. It's just how it is. You don't notice until after the fact. And usually that means your club is gone. So at that point, I didn't even bother calling the club. And I was like, all right, you're out on that 56 degree. So 6.
Do you need that club?
You don't need it, but
Like, were you like, I'll just use my pitching wedge?
I have other wedges. You could use a 50 degree, but with like a lighter swing. You could use a 64 degree with a harder swing, but that's extra lofty. So the 56 degree really comes in handy when you're approaching the green. And I was very confident with that club. So it was important to me. Some people might not be.
So you would say that compared to those other degreed wedges, which you also have, this 56 degree one is more important to you.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because you were using it, which is thus why you ended up losing it.
Yeah.
You use it, you lose it, sister.
Yeah. So I can pin back when I lost it. I was chipping the ball like 30 yards. I left it in the grass. The grass was tall. I grab my putter. I putt. I walk off. Go to the parking lot. I forgot about the club.
You hit a good shot though.
I think so. I forget.
Sorry. Continue.
Months go by. My friend texts me, "Hey, we're gonna go back to that golf course, and do you want to play?" I said yes. We go to the golf course, and I go up to the front, shot in the dark. Hey, I played here last fall. I left a 56 degree. Do you mind checking in the back and seeing if you have it? They say, sure, we'll go check. They check. They don't have it. I'm playing with my friend Pete, my friend Chris, and my friend Pete's dad. Call him Mr. Pete. I am driving the golf cart with Mr. Pete. So I get my bag in there. I'm driving, and I mentioned to the guys that they didn't have my 56 degree. No surprise there. Mr. Pete says to me, oh, wait, I found a 56 degree in my bag. And he pulls it out. It's not my 56 degree. It's actually a nicer 56 degree. This club's probably like $150, $200. And he said, I don't want it. Do you want it? And then, after we got over the whole, like, his son's right there. Like, are you sure you don't want it, Pete? Like, Mr. Pete was like, no, you can have it. And Pete was like, you can have it. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And this is a nicer club than I would ever spend my own money on.
Got it.
So we played golf. I'm using my new 56 degree. We're getting to know each other, and we're having a ball.
You and the club.
Me and this 56 degree, we are like salt and pepper. Just like we're going together so well, having a great round. And then we get to the 18th hole. And, I'm just, I'm playing really well, and I'm really excited. We get to the 18th hole. I chip and I putt. We wrap up our round. I grab my clubs, and the 18th hole is right by the parking lot. They're just like 100 yards distance between the hole and the car that we drove in. And so we all grab our bags. We stack them up out in front of the clubhouse. I go in to take a piss, and then I leave. We say goodbye to Mr. Pete. Bye, Mr. Pete.
Bye, Mr. Pete.
And then me, Pete, and Chris, we go to the car. And we all throw our bags. We put our bags down, and we take our shoes off. We're about to load up the trunk. And my friend Chris says, he's like, it's always good to just make sure you got all your clubs. And so he says that, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, you know what, Ryan? Moving forward, you need to be checking your bag to make sure you have all of your goddamn clubs. That was fucking embarrassing that you lost your really nice 56 degree, and it's even more embarrassing that you were rewarded with an even nicer one several months later.
Karma is not real.
So I'm checking my bag, and I see all of my clubs except my brand new 56 degree. And I got that pit in my stomach, that sense of panic.
Especially since they had just given to
They
you
just
so
gave it
generously.
to me. It was kind of a funny thing. I got it, but it was like, you're a fucking idiot. Here's the club anyway. Wow, you really lucked out, Ryan. You don't deserve it. And I had this terrible pit in my stomach. And I didn't want to confess to the guys that I lost my 56 degree, but I also needed to run over to the 18th hole and check and see if I left it there. I'm like shaking. I was so upset. And so I start walking towards the hole. There's no reason for me to be walking towards the hole at this point. I'm wearing my flip-flops. All of our bags are there. Everything should just be us getting into the car. I run over, and my friend Pete's like, yo, what are you doing? My friend Chris is like, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I got to call Vic. I got to call Vic. And then like, what? And I was like, I can call Vic. I'm going to take a picture of where I left my club last time as like a joke. Cause like, it's just like so embarrassing. And I'm running over and I'm panicking, and I go to exactly where I thought I left the club.
That's very clever.
And I take a picture because I'm like thinking to myself, I need to commit to this lie because they're definitely watching me like I'm a fucking idiot. I walk over, I take the picture while this group of guys, they're playing. This guy says, "What are you doing?" And I explain, he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like encroaching. They're like putting. I'll include the picture in the video version of the podcast. And I say, "Sorry, I'm just taking a picture because I left my club here last time." I'm like really committing to the bet, and I don't see it, and so I shamefully like trot back and I pretend like I was just like taking a picture and everything's all funny. And deep down, I'm like about to cry because I just did the most embarrassing, my brain's not working properly, I don't deserve the breath, the air that I breathe mistake. And I go and I grab my bag, and my buddy said, "Are you missing a club?" And I was so upset. And I was like, fuck. And I look up and I look at him, and he looks at me. And he smiles.
Oh, motherfucker.
And
when he said it, did you not know so?
I had no idea. He had my club. When I went to the bathroom,
Bastard.
the three of them got together and like, let's take the 56 degree out of Lynch's
my
bag
God.
and let's make him piss his pants.
Oh my God.
And they contemplated having me sit in that lie for the entire car ride back.
That's cruel, bro.
And
even the fact that you had to like make it up, they knew what you were doing.
In retrospect, when I said, when I like code switched on my lie saying I got to call Vic and then switched it to I'm going to take a picture of where I left my club last. I didn't see this because I was running over there, but Chris said that he turned around, he started laughing his ass off because they knew that I was lying because
my God, dude.
they had me in a bottle.
God,
I was like
dude.
a controlled subject in this hilarious prank
my
experiment.
God, that's so funny.
And I got the club back, and it was
That is
it was
funny
just
of
good,
them.
nice and wholesome, just a good.
Did
fun
you
time.
like have to explain your lies at that point, or did you guys just like?
They were just mock like, oh, I gotta call Vic. Oh, I gotta take a picture. Like, oh, shut the fuck up, Ryan. You fucking idiot. Like, no.
Oh,
it was a good time.
my God, bro. That's
Good prank on the golf course.
Oh man, that went as well as it could have gone for them too, because you might not have noticed till later. At which point you might have never said anything because you didn't want them to think that you lost the club that they so generously gave you.
Yeah.
Were they planning to do that the whole time, or did they think of it later?
I think they thought that when I was in the bathroom. The three of them were just idling around waiting for me, and I don't know whose idea it was, but one of them was like, "You wanna be funny?" So they got me good, dude. And that's why my friend Chris said it's always good to check my gloves. And it went over my head because it was just like so natural the way he did it. We were in a silly mood. He said it in a silly way. It was just like the way our whole day went.
Yeah,
Fun,
they almost
silly,
gave it away.
Good vibes. Oh, I'm so gullible, dude. Good prank. You guys got me. Mr. Pete, thanks for the club I do not deserve.
Well done.
I saw you.
Well, you earned it though, bro.
I did, yeah.
You earned the club by going through that prank.
Yeah,
So
you're right.
ultimately-
You're right. You're right. I saw you. You were at some simulator recently,
I was in the
right?
Barstool Chicago office.
They have a simulator in there?
Ripping the simulator, yeah.
Yeah, I saw you. Were you swinging the driver?
Well, I started off with a 3-iron, and then I moved to the driver once I saw that it simulates how far you're hitting the ball. I was like, oh, that's fun.
That is fun.
Should do that at least. And it's actually funny because I don't know how accurate it is, but when you're on the golf course and you're falling into bad habits, whether you're like hooking the ball or slicing the ball, like it's hard to kind of like correct it in the moment. And I don't hit on the practice tee enough to like, I never practice. So if I'm golfing, it's the only time I'm golfing, and I'm sucking because I'm hitting every 5th shot good because I never play. But when you're doing it on the simulator, assuming that it's accurate, it's interesting to be able to self-correct either where you're teeing the ball up in your stance or how open or closed the face is, all that shit. So I was kind of like fucking around and troubleshooting, and I enjoyed doing it.
That is fun.
Yeah.
That is
I
fun.
used to golf a lot.
Yeah, you mentioned that. You mentioned that in the past. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, dude. So letting her rip.
Yeah.
Fun office that is. They have a basketball court in there, obviously. Bunch of cool shit. So those guys are having a great time.
Sweet, sweet.
Dude, I was thinking about this. So I feel like comedians all sort of fantasize about what it would be like to be a rock star. Especially you see this at like the top of the game too. Like these comedians, and a lot of the times comedians will try to make music. And I don't know that I've ever seen a stand-up comedian transition into making music and do it better than they do stand-up comedy.
Non-comedic music? So not like a Bo Burnham
Whether
situation.
I mean, he was always sort of like a musical comedian, right? Or like the way Francis is a musical comedian.
Yeah, but are you saying like someone that does comedy and then they try to be like a Rolling Stones?
I don't even know if it's trying to be a Rolling Stones. I think a lot of the time they're like trying to be kind of funny, but you can also tell they're trying to be actually good. I am guilty of this too. Lil Young Big falls into this category. And while, depending, you might argue that the Lil Young Big experiment was like slightly less cringe than maybe some other versions. Ultimately, I think it's a trap that comedians fall into, and you suddenly are spending all this time making music when you should be working on your stand-up.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you're a stand-up performer doesn't mean that you could do music too. So anyway, I feel like a lot of comedians, I've had this discussion or I've heard people talking about it, it's like there's nothing like being a rock star. So I was thinking about what are the advantages of being a comedian over being a rock star? What are those things? And a couple come to mind. I don't know if there's anything that you have to contribute to this as well. And I'm launching this at Lynch on the spot. So I don't expect you to have anything prepared because it seems obvious. It's like, okay, you're doing stand-up. Every time you tell a joke, the stakes are so high. If the joke doesn't work, maybe you lose the momentum of the crowd, blah, blah, blah. People they don't go as nuts as they might at a concert. You come out, you sing these hits that people love. They go nuts. Oh my God, he's singing the song I love. That's so sick.
Mm-hmm.
But there's levels to all that because the best comedian, right? People are probably going to drool over his act too, live. Now maybe it won't tape the same way, but like the live performance of the comedy, people are going to go, they're going to love it. And they'll probably love your special too. I don't know, whatever. The same way they're going to go to the Bad Bunny concert and know every lyric.
Mm-hmm.
So like, and maybe comedians are a little more controversial, so I don't know. But like, if you're a mega star and people know all your songs, they're going to love the concert. But if they don't know all your songs, maybe it's a little more of the same as comedy than we might think, in that you're not getting that same benefit of the doubt because people know 6 of your songs, but they don't know 20 songs. So therefore, this whole concert you're doing is sort of a balance of trying to make people excited about some songs while they're not as excited about other songs, unless you're like a huge star, right? So you could theoretically be doing a big venue, selling a bunch of tickets, but you only have a few songs that people know. And even I would consider myself a big fan of certain artists, but I only know a few songs. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the crutch that musical artists can lean on that comedians can't.
What? That they have hits?
That they have hits.
Right.
So if they're trying out new music, they can always come back to the hits. Whereas a comedian, like if Jim Gaffigan in the year 2024 is testing out 2 new jokes, they don't hit. it's kind of, you can't, what you can do in music, you can't do in comedy. He can't just come out and do his Hot Pockets bit randomly in the middle of a completely different set. Whereas a musician, you're Green Day and you're singing, 2 brand new songs, no one quite gets it, and they're picking up that no one's enjoying it, they can go back and play Holiday or Boulevard Broken Dreams, and they can win everybody back.
Right.
I don't think you can win everybody back if you just do like your old bits again.
Right.
It's different.
But that is also one of the advantages, which is where I was eventually going to go with this also, because as a rock star, right? Say you're third eye blind and you have, the sky was gold, she was gold, I was tick, took it to my nose, and I wish I could get back. Everyone loves that song. Everyone loves, I wish you would step back from that ledge, my friend. But since those couple albums, they've probably had 5 albums or whatever, and nobody cares about any of those songs. Mm-hmm. So that must be really hard for them that they're never getting the feedback they want on their new songs. And I'm making an assumption. Maybe there's diehard Third Eye Blind fans, and maybe they have new music, and maybe people love it. But they never get to get people on board with their new shit. Whereas a comedian, you don't have a choice. So you're never doing your old jokes on your next tour because people know them. You have to do new ones, and they're excited to hear them. As opposed to when you're a musician, people are not excited to hear your new shit unless one of them's a new hit. Mm-hmm. And maybe the next tour they will be once those songs have marinated and sunk in a bit. But for now, they want to hear the hits, the things that made you famous. And you might not be able to recreate those hits. But as a comedian, you always have to do new shit. Mm-hmm. By the time you're doing the arena tour or whatever, or the theater tour, you will have worked those jokes out. So you kind of know what to expect, and you're like excited for them to hear them for the first time or something. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of what the advantages are, because that is also a disadvantage to your point.
Yeah. I mean, it comes down to just a lot more pressure. Yeah. But you can outdo what a rock star can do. But do you think that most comedians are thinking that when they're thinking about transitioning over from comedy to?
I don't think. I think they just think
music?
that comedian, like, you're a comedian, you're vulnerable, you're cynical, you're sarcastic. It's not as sexy as being confident and singing to people who are losing their fucking mind about you. It's not as exciting. It just isn't. Like, the pinnacle of being a rock star is much more exciting than the pinnacle of being a comedian, conventionally speaking. I think most comedians would agree with that, even if fans don't necessarily agree with that specifically. But it's interesting. It's an interesting thing.
Do you know who's Pretty Rock Star? When Bill Burr, Rolling Rock, was that?
Oh, the outside thing?
Yeah. When he, like, the intros and the outros to specials can be pretty rock star.
Yeah.
When that special ends, it's just one camera going behind him while he's on stage with how many thousands of people are up there cheering, screaming his name like a rock star because he absolutely murdered for an hour, and then the camera just following him down the tunnel all the way to his car.
Yeah.
One shot. I don't know. That's pretty rock star.
That's rock star.
When you brought that up, I was thinking of rock star and comedy in the same thought, and that was that video scene for me.
I mean, he's part of a handful of people who are as close as you can get to being Mick Jagger as a comedian. I would argue it's still not the same, but totally. I'd be perfectly happy if I were to ever reach that. Mm-hmm. If you guys are looking for a good Father's Day gift, we highly recommend Storyworth. This is a gift that I have gotten for my father in the past. And it's a really cool thing and it helps you learn about your family member. Here's how it works. Every week after you've gifted this to your loved one, Storyworth will send them questions that they can then answer. And it'll be things that you would just either never think to ask them. Maybe it's stuff you're uncomfortable asking them. Maybe, you just don't have that kind of relationship where you're the one asking the questions. They're always asking you the questions. And it's really cool to learn things about your loved ones that you never knew. And also, it kind of makes you feel bad that you weren't asking these questions to begin with, right? So over the period of a year, it will send these questions to your loved one. They will answer them. And then once the time period is completed, Storyworth compiles a book together of all of the answers that your loved one made over the year with these emails. It turns into this wonderful keepsake for you to have forever. So along the way, it's a great way to learn about your loved ones, hear stories from them that you never heard previously, and also kind of gives them this new level of humanity, which is really special and nice to hear them talking about things instead of being in this caretaker role where they're protecting and worried about you. They seem more like a person, and it's a nice way to connect.
Yeah, here's like an example of some of the questions that they could receive. What was life like in the 60s? Did you date someone in college? Maybe your grandfather didn't date your Nana in college. Maybe there was somebody else before her. Maybe a Mary Sue. What store did you love to go to as a child? Did you make friends in the service? My grandfather served. I'd love to learn more about that. These are great questions to really find out more about your loved one besides those surface level questions that you might be asking them.
Agreed. And you'll get the answers to all these questions throughout the year, so you'll be able to sort of read them if you choose to. But I think it's fun to not read them and then just read it once you get the keepsake book.
Yeah.
I intend to keep mine tucked away nicely and pull it out every once in a while when I'm missing my old man and I want to reconnect. I'll open up the book and read some of his stuff. It's just a really cool gift idea that everybody gets to participate in.
Yeah, so give all the fathers in your life a unique, heartfelt gift you'll all cherish for years. Storyworth. Right now, save $10 on your first purchase when you go to storyworth.com/oops. That's storyworth.com/oops to save $10 on your first purchase.
It is funny. Like, there is trickery that you can do in both scenarios. Like, if you're a comedian, you're not doing that well for whatever reason, there are tricks you can do. And the same way with music, which I've seen. So if like, I've been at a concert where there's an artist that's like popular, but like I was saying before, they have a couple big hits and then they're playing a few songs that people don't really know about. And a way to win the crowd back, there's like different hype up tricks. Like when I say go, you say ga, go, ga, go. Or they do the thing where like the steam comes out and they jump around and they have a water bottle and everyone gets a little wet. Oh my God, we just got a little wet. We're awake now. Or they'll do a really, they'll do a really lit cover.
Yeah.
And everybody goes, oh my God, this song I know. And with comedians, like you can there's little tricks like that too. Like if you feel like you're losing the connection, maybe try some crowd work. Maybe like you do a joke you wouldn't normally do because you think they might like it or something. You know what I mean? You do what you kind of got to do to survive up there. It's all part of live performing. So I
got to tell you, you just reminded me of an instance where a musical artist wasn't allowed to rely on their previous discography. Is that the right term?
Yeah. Not previous discography, on their discography.
Yeah. On their previous hits.
Yes.
So at Quinnipiac in 2014, they had some like Raise the Giant type of event, concert on campus. And
what's Raise the Giant mean?
That's the name of the event. They had a on-campus concert event for all the students that lived on campus. And they brought Jamie Lynn Spears, who is doing music. Or she was at least. And she was trying to sing all this new music from her new album. And I don't think anybody was familiar with any of her songs besides the theme to Zoe 101. Did you watch Zoe 101?
Sing it for me.
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Is it a Disney Channel show?
I know you see me standing here. Nickelodeon.
Okay.
Do I look good, my dear? Do I look good today?
I think I'm too old.
And then the chorus, if you wanna play, come and play today. Let's just get away. Yeah. And it's really, that's a hit song. We grew up on the show. That's why everyone was so drawn to come out to this concert. There's hundreds of people cheering Jamie Lynn Spears. And she's singing this music that no one's heard before. And so people start chanting the same way that if you went to see Green Day and they're singing all this new music and they don't want to hear it, they want to hear Boulevard of Broken Dreams, Boulevard of Broken Dreams. Green Day has the luxury of being able to sing those songs. Jamie Lynn Spears, the crowd was screaming, Zoe, Zoe, Zoe. And she didn't have the rights to that song.
Oh, wow.
So she had to ignore the requests, the audible requests by hundreds of drunk college kids that only want to hear the one thing they know her from. And she said, guys, I can't sing that. I just legal issues, like legal reasons, I can't sing the song. People didn't give a fuck. She kept singing.
Zoe.
She's like, but this is a song about my daughter. And everyone's like, Zoe, Zoe, we want Zoe. Everyone's screaming that. And
hey, I already explained it. Zoe.
And then people were not a fan of her.
Oh man, that's rough. Poor thing.
Real, and she's stuck up there. That I feel like that's worse than
that's tough
than being heckled.
That surprises me.
She needs to continue with the material. She can't divert to anything else. She needs to keep singing that music.
I wonder how that works because, dude, you'll go to a concert and people will sing songs that they're on that aren't their songs. They sing their verse from a song that isn't their song. I wonder what goes into that versus what goes into what was happening with her. Was it one of those things? Because I guess it's different. It's a theme song. It's different than a track on someone else's shit.
Yeah.
I guess the rules must be different.
I'm just realizing this in real time. Maybe it has something to do with her protesting Dan Schneider.
Did she?
Maybe that was why she refused to do it, because
Was she protesting Dan Schneider?
Dan Schneider created the show.
But did she ever protest Dan Schneider?
No, but
I know that they made the documentary about him, but
they
but maybe that's what happened. You're saying.
maybe she's like, I don't want to promote I don't like my experience at Nickelodeon.
Interesting.
I don't know, but that was a tough day for Jamie Lynn Spears.
That is, dude. That's brutal, bro.
People were like yelling at her. They were heckling.
Yeah.
So she just had to muscle through.
Jesus. I mean, she probably is getting paid really handsomely for that too. I mean, that's the one thing too to always remember with some of this stuff is like a college gig. She's getting paid well, even if it's like a weird setup or whatever. So that at least makes it I feel a little bit better for her knowing that she was making some money. But then also like, I wonder about that sometimes too, where it's like, maybe though for her, it's a smaller payday than what she had gotten in the past. And now she's like, all right, I need to do something. So I'll do these gigs. And they're like they would have been beneath her before.
Yeah.
But now she needs the money. And maybe that would have been really painful.
I think she was trying to get her music career off. Like,
Did it ever work?
I don't think so.
Let's look her up. How's she doing?
I don't think so.
How's JLS doing now?
I remember when she got pregnant, when Jamie Lynn Spears got pregnant, I must have been 10 or 11. And it was the first time I had a hard stance against something. I remember telling my parents.
You were against her being pregnant?
I said, how dare her? How irresponsible for a teenager to get pregnant. She is the star of my favorite show.
Well, I'll tell you what,
We all
bro.
look up to her, and we think PCA is such a cool school, especially to see it on TV. How dare her get pregnant, do something so stupid, and ruin this TV show for all of us? And then they had to cut the show short.
You love Zoe 101?
I loved Zoe 101. Pepperdine University is gorgeous.
It's also religious.
Is it?
Yeah. Bro,
They have a
you'll
good
be
golf
happy to
program.
know. What'd you say?
They have a good golf program.
I believe that. You'll be happy to know that Zoe 102 is now out.
Yeah, it's not the same.
You watched it?
No, it's a movie.
Oh, okay. So you're at least you know. I mean, she has 2.2 million followers. That has to be worth its weight in gold in some capacity. Let's see how her engagement is. Not great, actually.
No, not great.
But she's getting a lot of likes, but they might be cap. But yeah, she's getting like 3 comments. I mean, bro, she was before that era. It's always tough for a teen star because if the people who supported you grow up and you don't transition with them, they forget about you.
Yeah.
They liked you before they had a fully developed mind. So it can be tough to transition, but I'm sure she's doing all right, hopefully.
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah. Lynch is a savage.
I don't care. I'm still not over it. I loved that show. So
This is
did you watch? We might have mentioned this. Did you watch Degrassi?
no.
No.
Oh, so I'm too old for that too. Poor thing. Yeah, she's not getting a ton of engagement, but I mean, 2 million followers is 2 million followers, bro.
Yeah, whatever. It's probably from her sister.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Lynch not feeling it these days, guys. I told you those steroids are getting to the guy's brain. He is rocking and rolling and doing it and being a legend.
That's brutal.
Okay, I got one for you, Ryan.
Shoot.
So I was in the airport. I forget where I was, but at some point there was an announcement. It wasn't Detroit. Where was I right before Detroit? DC, maybe. Yeah, I was in the airport in DC. And I hear this announcement. It's like, you are not permitted to carry firearms through TSA. They said that. You are not permitted to carry firearms through TSA. And that was the end of the announcement.
That was the beginning and the end?
I believe so. It was talking about what you can and can't bring. It was like, you are not permitted to carry firearms through TSA. Who is carrying firearms through TSA? The end of that statement should have been also, what the fuck are you doing, dude?
Mm-hmm.
What would ever make you think you'd be able to sneak a gun through a security checkpoint?
Well, I bet it's the people that don't even think that they're sneaking it. I think it's the people that just don't know any better. They're just like, oh, I'm just walking in with my gun.
Is that happening?
Bringing my gun with me.
How often is somebody not clear that they can bring their gun through security? And also, yeah, if there's a way to check how many guns get seized at regular security every year. I wonder if people, A, try to sneak them in. Like you said, B, they don't even think about it, which would be insane, truly. Or C, they forgot that it was in their bag.
So in 2023, TSA screened more than 858 million individuals, which indicates the agency intercepted 7.8 firearms per million passengers.
Okay.
That's an answer.
That's a good answer.
That's an answer from one Google search.
That is a small percentage.
Well, dude, think about it. You go to the airport, the amount of times that there's some interaction between the TSA agent and a dumbass that didn't take their phone out of their pocket and they act all, whoa, what? Like,
Right.
what do you, I gotta take my phone out of my
Bro,
pocket?
it's not the same, man.
Sir, you need to take your magnets out of your pocket. Oh, with these? It's every time. It's always something, like your shoes, if you're not in TSA, pre-check. But like, it's every time you go, I'm always dumbfounded by the people that don't know any better. So
Bro,
the
it's
gun,
not-
the
dude,
gun is a
it's
league of
not
its
the
own.
same.
I know, but like those people are the same people that would walk through the detector with magnets.
Dude, everybody has their keys in their pocket. You're bound to forget them sometimes. Not everybody is walking around strapped. Fucking open carry or whatever.
I hate that.
Yeah.
But yeah, what 7.8 firearms per
Million. That's
858 million people.
no, per million it said.
Oh, you're right.
times,
You're in the- I'm sorry.
times 858 though.
Yeah.
So for the sake of it, round up.
7.8, let's say 8 times 858, wait.
So roughly 7,000 guns.
7,000 idiots.
That's a lot of guns, bro.
And
I wonder how many get through.
I don't know if I want to Google that.
Because you
They're going
gotta
to add
think,
that to the list.
I mean, dude, a gun. Well, so like, I guess you could like take the gun apart and like put different pieces of it throughout your luggage. I'm just trying to think of how you would pull that off.
You need a team to you need a team to do that. So like
one guy has one piece, one
Yeah.
guy has the other piece.
if it was like let's break down the pieces like Legos. There's 8 of us. Each of us have like a brick that would make up the gun.
Yeah, right.
And we all go to the airport for different different times. We don't go together.
Right,
and
right.
those pieces are so small that they wouldn't be able to decipher that.
Interesting. That
The
reminds me.
sum of them make a deadly weapon.
Have you seen the movie In the Line of Fire?
Not sure.
It's a classic. Clint Eastwood. He plays a Secret Service person. John Malkovich is the bad guy, and it's a very, very interesting protect the president from being assassinated movie. It was pretty good. I haven't seen it in a while. I'm unclear how it's aged, but it was one of my favorites growing up. We love Clint.
We do love Clint. No, I haven't seen that.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Listen, all Oops fam, let me know if you'd be interested in this. If we made a letterboxed account, an Oops the Podcast letterboxed account, so we can throw in every single movie that we've discussed, and just as like a playlist of like.
What do you mean a letterbox?
Have you heard of Letterboxd?
No.
It's basically it's like an Instagram or a Facebook account. It's basically a social media account where you watch a movie and you just type into this database that you saw the movie, and then anybody that follows you can see that you watched it or read the review that you write for it or what you rate it. So me and like 6 of my friends that watch movies, I can just see what they're watching.
Oh, that's fun.
It's very casual. There's not really much you can do in there besides just add to the database that you saw it. You can keep a log for yourself of like what movies you watched.
That's fun because as time goes on, you forget.
Yeah.
That's why I used to have a Netflix DVD subscription so I could rate all the movies that I've seen so that I'd remember. I could look it up, but now it's gone. So they actually allowed you to export all of your data in a PDF, which I've done. It's crazy.
That's cool. I miss the Netflix DVD days.
Yeah, but it's a fragmented technique because now moving forward, I need a new place to do that. So maybe I should do this, what you're doing, what you're talking about.
Yeah, get one. It'd be fun. You'd love it.
Yeah, it sounds like I would.
And you don't need to make a big thing out of it, or maybe we'll just make our own letterboxes and we'll share them.
Yeah.
But yeah, regardless, love to see what you guys are watching too, what you recommend.
Yeah, let us know if there's anything good. I have not yet watched that show that everybody loves.
Baby Reindeer.
I have not watched it. It's good.
I liked it. Yeah,
Yeah, I gotta
it's
check it
tough. It's a tough watch, but it's really good. Speaking of reindeer, I just watched last night Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Oh yeah, did you like it?
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I liked it
Fucked
too.
up.
Yeah,
I love those
The
movies.
guy who made Poor Things. Right?
Yes, and the new movie.
The Lobster's good too.
I haven't seen The Lobster. Yeah, I know the premise. I got to watch it. But the new movie that what's his name?
Whatever.
Jorgen?
Yorgamos or whatever.
Well, I'm not going to look it up, but we know who he is. He has a movie coming out on June 21st. This isn't an ad, but it's with Emma Stone, Jesse Plemons.
Your boy.
Jesse Plemons and who's the old actor? He was in Poor Things. He plays the Green Goblin.
Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe. The three of them, and the teaser trailer is really good. You have no idea what the movie's about, but it looks weird. So I'm excited about that, and I just wanted to share with you.
Check it out. Send us your recommendations. Also send us your emails. Let's do this dream here before we get out of here.
Yes.
So one of you guys sent us a dream. Thank you for doing that. Okay. Hey, gang. Big fan of the show. Obviously, I've recently quit smoking pot. And when I am smoking, I simply do not dream. Head on pillow, darkness, wake up is the normal status quo. If I smoke within 4 hours of bedtime. The first night I didn't smoke, I had a dream that I had killed my brother because he was a vampire. I woke up, worked up and confused and contemplated a trip to the dispensary. I have heard that people who, when they quit smoking weed, have crazy dreams. So I mean, do we want to try to analyze that? That was it.
No, I get that. I've experienced that too. There was a point in college when I was really smoking like multiple times a day.
Really?
My sophomore year, I was smoking a lot, and then we went student government on a retreat, and it was in a cabin, and I didn't want to bring weed. I didn't want to get in trouble. It was the first time I didn't smoke in probably like 2 weeks straight, and I still remember the dream that I had. And we were just jumping from, I was like in Avatar land, and we were just jumping and gliding from grassy rock to grassy rock. But that's what happens. The dreams are vivid, they're intense, and they're very colorful. And I think it has something to do with you gaining back your dopamine levels naturally, then balancing back out. So,
Interesting.
but maybe you should smoke some weed again, because if you're dreaming about killing your brother, that's probably, vampire or not, that's not good.
Do we want to get analytical? Is your brother sort of the center of attention in the family, and thus he is sucking the blood out of your status
Yes.
in the family hierarchy?
Was there any more to it besides you just killed his brother?
Killed his vampire brother.
Okay, so that also might mean that there's not much else going on in your life, and your brother is like a main focal point. If the only thing in the dream was killing your vampire brother, just like,
maybe that means he's sleeping with your wife.
yeah,
It also maybe means nothing. One of my old shrinks used to ask me about my dreams, and I was kind of like, I don't know about this, dude.
without going into detail, have you ever had a dream and you woke up and you were like, what the fuck was that?
All the time, but I usually don't remember.
And then you call your mom and say, I'm so sorry.
Not that. No, I've never done that. You've done that?
Never. That sounds more fucked up than it is.
No, I've had weird ass fucking dreams for sure. And I only kind of remember bits and pieces of them, besides maybe a couple specific ones that I had when I was a little kid. But like, I do think though, if the second you wake up from dreaming, you kind of remember what happened for a second. If you were to write it all down right away, I think it would be an interesting exercise. I just don't care to do that.
Yeah, I'm gonna start writing them down. And maybe bring them up on the podcast.
Do it. There's certain things that mean things specifically. Like shattering teeth has to do with like financial insecurity.
I thought it had to do with death.
Oh,
Like predicting death. There was a guy that lived across the hall from us in college, and he was one of our friends, and he had a dream one night, and he told us all the next day that he had a dream that there were teeth shattering. That day, somebody he knew from home died.
Oh, interesting.
A few weeks go by. He comes in, he tells us, guys, I had another dream where teeth were shattering. Somebody from
his teeth?
It was his teeth. They fell out of my mouth. Somebody from our school died.
That's crazy.
Like right after. And then we all told him to never tell us again if he has a dream like that. It was fucking weird. It changed the whole relationship that we had with him.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Well, dude, conventionally speaking, I think that it has to do with being afraid of like having financial insecurity, but worth looking up, I guess. All right, so this guy had another thing actually that he tacked onto it about tennis. So happy to help him out. He said, topic suggestion: I recently have taken up tennis. I'm not interested in pickleball; it just doesn't seem athletic enough, and I'm interested in getting really good exercise and getting into a really competitive sport. I think you're right about pickleball. Like tennis is a more athletically, it's a more demanding sport pretty much in every way. But pickleball is a really good workout. Don't sleep on it from a workout perspective, but respect on tennis. Anyway, I've been playing with my roommate who's pretty much my skill level, parentheses, bad. Do you have any suggestions for starting out at tennis? Drills, groups to join, where to play, other similarly skilled people? Thanks for hearing me out. Keep fighting the good fight. So you've asked the right person here, because I used to be a tennis instructor and I worked at clubs, and I heard about people who sort of had this problem. Tennis is interesting because people don't want to play with you if they're better than you, but you don't want to play with somebody if they're worse than you. You kind of need to get matched up. So what'll happen a lot of times at clubs, if you get into the ecosystem of a tennis club, I don't know where you live. In New York City, this whole thing would end up being very expensive, potentially. And I think that there might be apps or websites where they try to match you. You can get rated on your level, and then from there, you can join leagues, or you can sort of, it'll be easier for you to find people to play with, because you can be like, hey, I'm a USPTR 2.5. Is there anybody? I think that's how they're still rating it. I know there's some other rating systems, but just for the sake of this, any other 2.5s out here, and you might be able to find somebody. So I think that exists. But within a club, the same sort of thing exists, where people will match you up with other players who are your similar skill level. I've seen them do that at clubs. So, and if you can't figure out like a club or what the lay of the land is like a club, you can sign up for drills. If you don't want to do lessons, because private lessons can obviously be expensive, doing group drills can be helpful. It's less expensive because you're all sort of carrying the burden of the cost of the hour, and the pro has a little less time with you specifically, but they'll still give general advice as well as specific advice to you. It's a good way to stretch the dollar if there are any sort of budgetary constraints. If there are no budgetary constraints, the private lessons the way to go. Buy a package of private lessons. Try to play at least a couple times a week. If you don't, it'll be hard to make progress. I'd say twice a week is probably the bare minimum. But if you're just hacking around with your roommate who sucks, you're just going to continue to suck. And even as you get better, you will get better in a way that sucks, and you will suck. So spend the money, because it's such a technical game that if you develop bad habits, it's very, very difficult to shake them, and it will put a ceiling on how good you can get. You don't want that. So go take a lesson, go do a drill, whatever, and have fun. It's a great game that you can play deep into adulthood, because it doesn't require a whole team of people. Show up with one other guy or girl or whoever, and you hit balls, and you have a great old merry time. So
Mary,
good luck with that. Shout out to my accountant, Terry. I know he was picking up tennis too. I think he bagged a racket that I kind of gave him a recommendation on. Hope it's going well for you there too, dude. I'll text you if you don't hear this. And that's it. Oops, the podcast. June 1st, Laugh Boston. Me and Lynch will be there. It's going to be pretty sweet. Looking forward to doing that show. 18th, I'm at Helium in Portland. The 3rd of August, I'm in Pasadena, California. I also have Tampa coming up. I'm working on a Tacoma date, and more stuff coming down the pipeline as I figure out my special. At Not Julio G on TikTok and Snapchat. At Oops the Podcast. Send us your emails to oopsthepodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what's going on. Welcome if you're new. Thanks for being here if you've been. And if you're somewhere in the middle, we love you too.
if you could, please share and like the Instagram clips that we put up. If you don't mind launching them on your story.
Launch them
on your story for us. That really means a lot to us as we continue to grow our family. We will see you guys next week.